You are welcome to the lecture, Fundamentals of Web Programming. In this second chapter of Basics of Web Design, we will look at HTML basics. Today's lecture on HTML basics will equip you with learning outcomes such as how to describe the anatomy of a web page, how to format the body of a web page with block-level elements, including headings, paragraphs, lists, and block quotes, how to configure the text on a web page with inline elements, how to configure text with phrase elements, how to configure special entity characters, inline breaks, and horizontal rules, how to configure a web page using header, nav, main, and footer elements, how to use the section, aside, and article elements, how to use the anchor elements to link from page to page, how to configure absolute, relative, and email hyperlinks, and finally, how to test a web page for valid HTML syntax. Here is an overview of the HTML tag lists that are currently available. These are basic tags. We have the formatting tags, we have the image tags, we have the link tags, we have the list tags, we have form tags, we have table tags, we have media tags, we have meta tags, we have programming tags, and finally we have the general tags. First of all, we can see the basic HTML tag as number one. Zooming into the list, we can see the doc type, the HTML, we can see the head, as well as the body. Remember, we covered these tags in our first lecture. Furthermore, we have the formatting tags. Looking at the formatting tags, just zooming in, we have the B, the strong, the I, we have the EM for emphasis, we have the underline, we have the sub, the pre, the small, we have ABBR. We have several other formatting tags, as much as you need. The heading element as shown in the slide, use any of the heading tags, such as H1 to H6. Each tag contains different headings. The H1 tag defines the most important heading, while the H6 tag defines the least important heading. Just remember to use these tags inside the open and close body. The paragraph element. Looking at the P tag, we can see that the HTML element represents a paragraph. Paragraphs are usually represented in visual media as block and text, separated from adjacent blocks. HTML paragraphs can be any structural grouping of related contents, such as images or form fields. The link break element known as BR tag. This line break element or standalone tag is called a void element in HTML5. Whenever we come across a BR tag, we know for sure that we're jumping onto a new line as shown on the slide. The HTML horizontal rule element, known as HR tag, is used to insert and configure a horizontal rule or a thematic break in an HTML page to divide document sections. The HR tag is an empty tag element, such as it is naturally void and does not require an end tag. It is also used to specify the alignment of the horizontal rule. The block quote element. The block quote tag in HTML is used to display the long quotations, such as a section that is quoted from another source. It changes the alignment to make it unique from others. It contains both opening and closing tags. In block quote tag, we can use elements like heading, list, paragraph, and so on. The phrase elements. A phrase element is used to describe words or phrase within a block or structure elements. Phrases include semantic elements used inline to mark items like user interface controls. Some examples of phrase tags are ABBR, strong, mark, and so on. We also have common phrase elements such as B elements. With the B elements, text is displayed in bold fonts. With the strong element, text has strong importance and is displayed in bold. With the I element, text is displayed in italic font. And with the EM element, text has emphasis and is displayed in italic font. Proper nesting. A nested element, also called child element, can be a parent element too if other elements are nested within it. HTML tags should be nested in correct order. They must be closed in the inverse order of how they were defined. That means the last tag opened must be closed first. So the P is for paragraph, the I is for italic. So we open a new paragraph and we set the text to be in italic. We open a strong tag for our numbers and we close a strong tag. We also close our italic. We also close our paragraph. Looking at the display, we have our text in the form of italics and we have our numbers in a strong form. Let's have a look at HTML basic lists of tags and their descriptions. We have UL. UL defines an unordered list. OL defines an ordered list. LI defines a list item. DL defines a description list. DT defines a term in a description list. And DD describes the term in a description list. Ordered list. An ordered list typically is a bulleted list of items. HTML 3.0 gives us the ability to customize the bullets, to do without bullets, and to wrap list items horizontally or vertically for multi-column lists. The UL contains the unordered list, while the LI is a list item element that contains an item in the list. Unordered list example. An unordered list typically is a bulleted list of items. HTML 3.0 gives us the ability to customize the bullets, to do without bullets, or to wrap list item horizontally or vertically for multi-column lists, such as we open H1 and we have our text, we close H1. We open UL on ordered list, we close UL on ordered list. Between the UL, open and close, we now have 3 LIs. We open our first LI with the content of blue, we close it. We open our second LI with the content of teal, we close it. We open our third LI with the content of red and we close our LI. Finally, we close our UL. In the output, this is what we get. We have my favorite colors because it is H1, and we also have the list items such as blue, teal, and red. Ordered list conveys information in an ordered fashion. The OL as an HTML list element represents an ordered list of items, typically rendered as a numbered list. The OL type attribute determines numbering scheme of lists and defaults its numerals. The LI, on the other hand, contains an item in the list. Ordered list example. First of all, we open the first list item with the content apply to school and we close it. We open the second list item with the content register for course and we close it. We open the third list item with the content pay tuition and we close it. We open the fourth list item with the content attend course and we close it. In our display, we have 4 list items. We have item number 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have item number 1 as apply to school, item number 2 as register for course, item number 3 as pay tuition, and item number 4 attend course. Description list and their uses. Description list displays a list of items and descriptions. It displays a list of FAQ and answers. These are some description list elements. We have the DL, it contains the description list. We have the DT, it contains a term or name. And finally, we have the DD. This contains a definition or description and indent the text. The DL-HTML represents a description list. The element encloses a list of groups of terms that are specified using the DT element and subscriptions provided by the DD elements. Common uses of these elements are to implement a display of metadata. Here on the slide, we can see our DL is open and we close it. In between the open and close, we open a DT with the content of IP and we close it. We open a DD with the content of Internet Protocol and we close it. We open another DT with the content of TCP and we close it. Then we now open DD with the content of Transmission Control Protocol and we close it. Our output shows IP equals Internet Protocol and TCP IP equals Transmission Control Protocol. Our special characters are characters that are not alphabetic or numeric in nature. As seen on the slide, they appear as quotes, copyright, symbol, and so on. The div element. The purpose of div is to configure a specially formatted division or area of a web page. It creates a block display with empty space above and below the div. It also contains other block display and inline display elements. Structural elements. Here we have header elements, nav elements, main elements, and footer elements. Header elements contains the heading topic. Nav element contains the navigation buttons such as file, edit, and we have the main element, which is the body part. And finally, we have the footer element. So from the header, we open the header and we close it. The navigations, we open them and we close them. The main element within the body, we always open and close each line. Looking at the footer, we also open and close them. So these are the basic structure of HTML page. The section element is a generic semantic element. It also represents a generic standalone section of a document that can be used to combine portions of a document together into discrete units that are related in some way. The article element represents a section of a page that consists of content that is tangentially related to the content around the aside elements and which could be considered separate from that content. Such sections are often represented as sidebars in printed typography. The time HTML element represents a specific period in time. It may include the datetime attribute to translate dates into machine-readable formats, allowing for better search engine results or custom features such as reminders, a time on a 24-hour clock. An HTML document is mainly divided into two parts. Head. This contains the information about the HTML document. For example, the title of the page, version of HTML, metadata, and so on. The body part, as seen on the slide, contains everything you want to display on the web page, such as the nav, main, and footer. The A element, also referred to as anchor element, has an inline display element. It specifies a hyperlink reference, href, to a file. The text between the A open and A close is displayed on the web page. For example, the href equals to the domain name as seen on the slide. The href attribute indicates the file name or URL web document, photo, PDF, and so on. More hyperlinks. The absolute link are links to other websites, such as the one on the slide. Relative link are linked to pages on your own site, and they're also relative to the current page, such as the one on the slide. Opening a link in a new browser window. The target attribute on the anchor element opens a link in a new browser window or a new browser tab. Email hyperlinks in HTML are also referred to as mail-to links that can open a user's email clients and draft a message directly to you or your team. The Mail To application can automatically launch the default mail program configured for the browser. If no browser default is configured, a dialog box is displayed. Valid HTML is a technique for correcting syntax errors in code. The HTML validation approach has a number of systematic advantages, including more consistent browser display. The HTML is a technique for correcting syntax errors in code. The HTML validation approach has a number of systematic advantages, including more consistent browser display. Chapter 2 Summary. In this second chapter, we examine HTML basics taken from our main topic, Basics of Web Design. This chapter provided an introduction to HTML. HTML elements used for inline and block display formatting were introduced. You also use these skills over and over again as you create your web pages. In Summary Chapter 2, we examine the following: the heading element, the paragraph element, the line break element, the horizontal rule element, the block quote element, the phrase elements, proper nesting, HTML list basics, unordered list example, ordered list example, description list example, special entity characters, the div element, structural elements, more structural elements, HTML5 structural elements, the A element, more on hyperlinks, opening a link in a nav browser window, email hyperlinks, and writing valid HTML. We have now come to the end of the second chapter of Basics of Web Design. Thank you all for your attendance.